Hello, folks. Talking about more habits, skills, and behaviors that you can actually have and cultivate that can span across different areas of your life. You can actually cultivate the habit of being empathetic. So, empathy is a great skill. More and more you practice empathy, it will actually help you be empathetic in your life, in your personal life, in your work life, and whatnot, right? So, and then sharing knowledge, sharing experiences, sharing learnings, sharing wisdom, sharing ideas, principles, mindsets, sharing ideas, sharing suggestions, advice, and then ideologies, principles, ideas. Yeah, I think I've mentioned it all now, probably multiple times, some of them. So sharing is actually a great thing, and then learning, right? Basically learning anything and everything, and from anyone and everyone, and from anywhere and everywhere, right? Once you start learning in, say, in your personal life, let's say you read books and whatnot, you'll probably use up that habit even at work. You'll probably start learning stuff, though interests might vary or might differ and whatnot. Like, let's say you're probably interested more in life stuff than work stuff, but then it's probably very easy for you to pick up and learn stuff because you're already a learner and you are used to learning stuff. It's just a matter of what you learn. So if you are someone who just learns anything and everything and from anyone and everyone and from anywhere and everywhere and from anything and everything, then you'll probably find it easy to learn work stuff also and not just life related stuff. So, or anything, right? For that matter. So uh, empathy is kind of related to being kind, nice, which I spoke about before. So it's kind of like a branching out of that, I think. Empathy, compassionate. So compassion, sympathy, I don't think you need those much, though a lot of people have it by default or may not have it. Sympathy is also something, but usually empathy and compassion is more important, especially compassion. Compassion is not easy though. You basically do something to help someone in distress. Empathy is just understanding their distress, which is not an easy thing. You can't really be completely empathetic, as in, like, you can't completely understand someone, what they're going through and what is their situation, and exactly put yourself in their situation and exactly feel what they're feeling. But you can at least imagine. Even sometimes imagination is hard for some people due to their I don't know, their biology and whatnot. For example, I think autism, people who are autistic, I don't know how empathy works for them, but I truly believe that everything is a skill and people can learn the skill. So empathy is a skill according to me, and almost anything and everything is a skill. So if you can do it biologically, if it's possible, I think it is possible. And even if you're autistic or whatever, I think it's possible. So empathy, and sharing learnings and whatnot, and then learning in general, right? I think sharing kind of comes from being useful. So sharing learnings or sharing in general, like, for example, sharing food, sharing learning is kind of like sharing information and whatnot. So sharing things, right? So sharing, say, books or whatever. So sharing any kind of resource or anything that you have, right? So sharing is kind of like a branching out from being useful or being helpful. So sharing learnings, information, books, or whatever it is. And learning is kind of related to consuming or reading and stuff. So you basically learn when you actually read or like experience stuff. So one is experiencing, the other is consuming stuff, consuming information, knowledge from, say, reading or watching or listening, which is all consuming. So learning is in one way consuming, apart from experiencing and practically doing something to learn. So that is also producing in some sorts, in some way, to practically put something to play or put something to use or do something to actually, for example, conduct a science experiment, which is kind of like producing or creating something and doing something practically and then learning from that, right? So you produce and then you consume, or you consume information or learn. You produce and experience and then learn from that, right? So yeah, I mean, sharing, learning, sharing information, sharing knowledge, or sharing things and food and whatnot, and then learning things, and sharing your learnings, and then empathy. All of these are actually great habits, skills, and behavior to cultivate and have. I'll think about more of these, but yeah, and basically contributing. Like I mentioned about sharing, I mentioned about being empathetic, I mentioned about being helpful, kind, being useful, and all. So these are all totally related. Like sharing things with people, because say you're sharing food, you're kind of empathetic. Say someone likes your food, you empathize with them and understand that they like your food. You can actually share the food with them and they can eat it and they can actually enjoy the food with you, right? And what else, you can actually be helpful. Let's say someone didn't bring their food, their lunch, they forgot their lunch, you can share food and whatnot. You can actually be helpful, useful, right, and empathetic also at the same time. And well, as part of these, sharing, learning, empathy, being useful, being helpful, being kind, I want to put this all together to something called as contributing to the world, or being useful and helpful to the world itself, right? When I say, or not just world, like everything and anything and everyone, right? So I would like to just say it in one word, saying world, but basically to anything and everything, to anyone and everyone, and to anywhere and everywhere, right? Yeah, being like contributing, right? Like uh, because contributing, because you want to share things, share information, share knowledge, or share things, right? And you want to learn and then share things. So you first learn and then you share things to the world. You contribute to the world. You be useful and helpful to the world. You contribute, say your inventions or discovery, or your predictions or knowledge, or whatever it is, right, that you have and that you think is useful and helpful for the world, to the world, right, to anyone and everyone, to anything and everything, and anywhere and everywhere, right? It doesn't matter to who and whatnot. And you're being empathetic and kind and nice, and like, because you need some level of empathy and kindness and being nice to be able to contribute to the world. So contributing in general is actually a great skill, um, behavior, and habit to have and cultivate. So yeah, just being, I would say, as a simple term, instead of saying contribute, I would say being useful to the world. Yeah, being useful is not easy. So yep. So yeah, that's all I had for this video, talking about more skills, more habits, behavior that you can actually cultivate and have, and that can span across your different areas of your life. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.